Hey, how's it going? Today I'm talking about how to strengthen your glutes without doing squats.
This is Running to the Castle, a podcast for injury-prone RunDisney runners on a journey to running magical miles. Join me, Dr. Allie, as I share the secrets I've gathered as a runner, doctor of physical therapy, and coach. You'll learn the exact ways I get my clients to the castle strong without feeling broken or held together with KT tape as they cross the finish line.
Okay, if you have been running for a little while, you may be experiencing knee pain. If you go online, Google it, go on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you're searching for information, even if you ask ChatGPT what to do for your knee pain, one of the recommendations is going to be strengthen your glutes. And then if you ask those search engines or ChatGPT what is the best exercise to do to strengthen your glutes, I guarantee one of the top 5, if not the top exercise that you will find is to do squats. However, if you have knee pain, this might not be an option. So especially if you have knee pain like runner's knee, IT band problems, or meniscus problems. Those are the top 3 types of knee problems runners have where they can't do squats. So the number 1 recommendation to strengthen your glutes is squats. Well, that's just not going to work for you. So what can you do instead? Now, I'm here to tell you the good news is there are so many different kinds of exercises that you can do to strengthen your glutes that don't involve squats. So you can get stronger glutes, which then will support your knee, which then will offload your knee, which then will mean that you have less knee pain. So the good news is there's something you can do. And I'm going to outline a few recommendations here today. And if you ever want to see examples of these, because obviously you're listening to a podcast right now, sometimes the description I talk about, it's kind of hard to get an idea about. So go to my Instagram, runDisneyDPT, if you want to see examples of these exercises. This month I am doing a whole series on glute exercises. So it will be in my highlights where there are a number of exercises, probably more than what I'm going to talk about here today. So you can always check there. You can also send me a DM and ask me about it. Okay, so you want to strengthen your glutes without doing squats. Absolutely, please. Yes. So the first thing to look at when strengthening your glutes without doing squats, when strengthening any muscle in general, you need to know, are you going to be doing exercises at a gym with equipment, or are you going to be doing exercises at home? Because that will very distinctly dictate what kind of exercise you can do. Because if you can use the weight machines, that's great. It's not mandatory, but it is great because it's a very easy way to increase the resistance because you can change the weights, change the weight plates, things like that to progress forward and forward, as opposed to doing exercises at home where you can make progress, but are you making progress by doing more repetitions? Are you making progress by using resistance bands, stronger resistance bands, using ankle weights, using dumbbells, things like that? So you need to know, are you exercising at home without equipment, or with minimal equipment, or are you exercising at a gym with lots of equipment? Okay, so let's talk about exercises at the gym first. If you're new to strength exercises, I do really recommend using the fixed machines, meaning these are the machines that don't do combined movements. You don't rely on stability and balance to perform the exercise right. You don't rely on your immediate movement without constraints to do the movement right. So things like using a leg press machine or using a hip extension machine, you really can't mess those up because the machine can only move in a certain way. So if you're new to strength exercises and you want to work out at a gym, use those kinds of machines. because you can control the weight, but you don't need to really know how to do the movement by yourself. So when you're on a leg press machine, the leg press can only slide in and out. You're bending and straightening your legs. Now, somebody I know is going to be listening to this podcast and say, well, isn't a leg press machine the same as doing a squat? Yes and no. It mimics the same movement, but because you can control all of the weight and resistance going through it, you aren't using body weight. You have significant control over that. And doing the movement, you can't mess it up. So doing a squat, you can mess up your alignment and you can mess up the depth of how deep you go. On a leg press machine, you can't. You can also use a leg extension machine. Now, I want to just check for a second. Different manufacturers will name machines differently. When I'm saying use an extension machine, I actually mean a hip extension machine, a glute extension machine. This is where you're kicking backward. And, it's usually you are standing with something against your chest, like a cushion against your chest. And then your foot is on a slider that you kick backward away from your hip. So that's a hip extension machine. You can use that. You can also use a standing leg extension machine where you're standing, and you could do this 4 different directions, but if you're standing facing forward and there's a pad on, it's usually like your ankle or your calf, and you swing your leg backward, and you can use that. So those are 3 different ways to use machines at the gym to strengthen your glutes. If you're not sure, go and ask one of the attendants to show you where those types of machines would be. They're usually in the same area around each other because gyms usually put all of their machines that are for the legs in one area and core in one area and arms in one area. And they may even divide them up even more based on, the specific muscles that you're working. So those are 3 different ways to strengthen your glutes without doing squats by using machines at the gym. Now, what if you want to do exercises at home or at the gym, but with minimal equipment? So there are a couple of ways you can do this. You can do them standing, you can do them laying down on your belly, you can do them laying down on your back. So I'm going to divide these up into those different positions. So standing with minimal equipment, you could do something like lateral walks with an elastic band around your ankles. And that's where it looks like a crab walk. You might have heard them called monster walks. And it's where you have the elastic band around your shins or your ankles, maybe even around your knees, depending on how challenging the elastic band is. And you're walking sideways and you really feel that glute burn. This is a good one for gluteus medius because that really helps the lateral or side to side movement of your hips. You can also do backward walks or backward monster walks with the same band positioning. So it's around your ankles, your shins, or your knees, depending on how resistive those bands are. And you are going to walk backward in a diagonal pattern. So you are in a crouched position and your feet start close together so that you have minimal tension on the elastic. And then with your left leg, you're going to step diagonally to your left backward. So back and to your left, and then your right foot comes to meet your left, and then you step diagonally back and to your right, and your left foot comes to meet your right, and you go back and forth in this diagonal pattern. It's important to do this diagonal pattern to make sure that you are engaging your glutes appropriately. If you go just straight backward, it's not as good of an engagement. So there are 2 exercises right there that you're doing standing. A third exercise that you are doing standing, you can do it with ankle weights or you can do it with the elastic band again. And you're going to stand on a step and you are going to have your leg locked straight. You are going to be in a slight crouch position with the other leg and a slight forward lean, and you are going to kick your leg backward and diagonally behind you. Again, that backward diagonal to engage your glutes appropriately. This one's called a hip extension, and then you bring your leg back into your starting position, and then you kick it backward again. So those are 3 standing exercises to do that you can strengthen your glutes without doing squats. If you want to lay on your back, you can do something like a bridge, where you lay on your back, your knees are bent so your feet are flat, and then you dig your heels in. So then your toes come up, dig those heels in, engage your core, lift your hips toward the ceiling, and you lift your butt as high as you comfortably can go, squeeze the glute muscles, and bring them back down. Variations of this exercise where you can do with your feet out on a stability ball, also known as yoga ball or a Swiss ball. You can do a single leg bridge. You can do a bridge where you lift up and then you have to do a leg lift. So you lift your hips up and then one foot comes off the ground and back down, and then the other foot comes off the ground and back down. So those are variations that you can do to strengthen those glutes laying on your back. Exercises you can do laying on your belly or in a hands and knees position. You can do either one in either position. And these would be donkey kicks. So lay on your belly, and then you're going to bend one knee so it's at a 90-degree angle. You're going to squeeze your glute muscles, and you're going to pump your leg that's bent up into the air without twisting your back. So I really like doing this laying flat on your belly, because as that leg goes up, drive that hip down into the ground to make sure that you're not twisting and rotating. It's really easy to twist and rotate, and then you aren't engaging your glutes quite as well, because then your back starts twisting. So you A, use momentum, and B, you start using some back muscles. So that's cheating. We don't want that. We really want to isolate and engage those glutes. You can do that same motion in a quadruped or on hands and knees position, where you're on your hands and knees, hands are directly underneath your shoulders, knees are directly underneath your hips. You're going to bend one of your knees and extend your hip, and then pump that leg up into the air. That's a donkey kick. Now, I will say many people with meniscus problems and runner's knee can't tolerate this hands and knees position, so it's not always ideal, but sometimes you can do it, and you just have to situate yourself right. If you want to do that position, you want to do the donkey kick, but can't do it in that position, you can also go and lean against your countertop or kitchen table, still do that donkey kick position, but now you are at an angle. And that does work the muscle just slightly differently than if you are on your hands and knees, and it does work it slightly differently than if you are laying flat on your belly. So you can do all 3 of those exercises and get a good solid glute workout, because it will work the muscles just a little bit differently. There are other ways that you can also lay on your side and do some glute exercises. A very common one that you'll see in physical therapy clinics, I also love to do, is the clamshell, where you lay on one side, your knees are bent, your legs are stacked one on top of the other, your ankles stay together, and you rotate your top knee upward. And as you rotate that top leg up, you're going to force your hips forward so that you don't roll backward. If you start rolling backward, now you're cheating again, and it's okay if it happens. Just know that it happened. Reset, really force those hips forward to rotate and get a good clamshell. You can also do a side plank lift. So you're starting in that clamshell position where you're laying on your side and your knees are bent, your legs are stacked one on top of the other. Then you're going to take your bottom arm underneath your body and push yourself up so that you are putting most of your weight through your shoulder and your elbow, and then you're going to lift your hips off the ground toward the ceiling and then back down. And so now you're getting into a side plank, but you're not staying there. You're going to go up and down. You want this to be a glute exercise, so make sure that you're moving your body from your hips and not just pushing sideways because you side bent and put more pressure through your elbow. I hope that makes sense. That might be one that you have to go and look at my Instagram for to get an idea of what I'm talking about. But that's a great solid workout plan for strengthening your glutes without squats. We gave the side lateral walks, the backward walks, the standing hip extension. Those are ones that you can do at home. We also talked about the leg press, the hip extension, or the 4-way leg extension machine standing if you're using machines at the gym. You can also do hip thrusts, also known as bridges, with both feet on the ground, with one foot on the ground, with your feet on the Swiss ball or stability ball, or even doing the lift and then lifting each leg consecutive before you drop those hips back down. You can do a side-lying clamshell. You can do a side-lying plank lift. And you can also do a side-lying hip abduction where you lay on your side, straighten out one leg, and lift that leg sideways in the air. With that one, you need to make sure that your leg is not coming forward. As soon as it's coming forward, you're going to be using more of your tensor fascia lata muscle or your hip flexor muscles. And you want to make sure that leg is in extension. So if you're having a hard time doing hip abduction without losing form, do it up against a wall. If you're looking for that one, you can definitely send me a DM. I have some videos of that one because that's one of my favorites as well. Okay, there you have it. How to strengthen your glutes without doing squats when you have problems in your knee like runner's knee, IT band syndrome, meniscus problems. If you are looking for more information about runDisney with knee problems or how to strengthen your glutes, I invite you to continue listening to this podcast. This month is all about strengthening your glutes.
As always, thanks so much for listening. That's all for now. Talk to you soon.